It is time to draw. It's streaming time. It's the third such stream. The first one was okay. The second one was a lot better. The third one, I am willing to say, could be transcendent. Will it be transcendent? I don't know. But I'll wait for a few more people to come on the stream before I explain what I'm doing. I'm just going to think about what I've decided to do and see if there's anyone in the chat. Nono says good morning from the USA. Good morning, Nono, from the UK. Callum M says hello. Hello. Ian Cook says, is there a stream song? Can you sing the stream song? Is there a stream song? It usually comes midstream. There's not a song at the start. There's no theme tune. I just don't know what kind of voice I'll find myself in. So usually I like to sing the theme tune, a bit like an episode of The Shield, where you don't get the sting and the theme tune until perhaps 12 minutes in. You aren't going to get the theme tune to my stream until I'm really feeling it, until the headline news has to be announced. But when it happens, it's going to blow some minds. Right, today I am doing another redraw of an old comic, not as a comment on my old work being inferior, but merely to see what I've learned since. And it's a classic from the archives. It's from 2007, December 6th, 2007. I'll just zoom in and we'll go through it panel by panel. I'll talk you through it. Let's have a look. It's from the story Christmas Island, a story not overburdened by inspiration. It was Christmas, I had to do a story. I decided that I would just write about Christmas Island, not knowing anything about Christmas Island other than it existed. Boy, did I learn a lot about Christmas Island. It's in the Oceania area, maybe? It's a long time ago, 13 years. It's in Oceania. It's maybe not that far from Australia, but in real terms probably thousands of miles. They have lobsters that climb up trees and spit acid. That's what I learned about Christmas Island. It's pretty much an insult to the people of Christmas Island, to be honest with you. Anyway, that was the level of research I would apply back in the day. Now I really drill down and you reap the benefits and I reap the whirlwind. So this story involved many characters. Shelley Winters, Desmond Fishman, Gibbous Moon, the piratical adventurer, long vanished character, sailing inventor Ernest. In fact, I think maybe in this story a number of characters went bad. They went evil. They did a heel turn. They did a heel turn because I wanted to get rid of them. Not gonna lie, just that's the cheap way of getting rid of characters. Make them bad, then you can write them out and say, oh yeah, well they were bad. And morality, ultimately, I mean that's the way society went in the end, isn't it? Now we just, as soon as anyone gives the slightest inkling of being bad, write them off completely, destroy them, and rightly so. Do say hello, by the way, in the chat. I will say hello to you, or attempt to say hello to you. I may say your name wrong. I may insult you, but I wouldn't have meant to. And we'll resolve it somehow after some awkward sit-down meeting. Anyway. Panel 1 is Shelby Winner. She's in bed. We note a spooky face in the mirror. It could just be a picture, because it's not super clear. There's no clear line of that's what we should expect, as there was very little continuity between pages in these days. Shelby Winner was a character who was arguably real, or she was a sort of manifestation of Shelley Winter's id. But we'll talk about this while I'm drawing, because I never quite resolved this myself. Panel 1, Shelby is in bed. She's on her laptop. She has a ukulele, I know, and a bottle of water. It's good to stay hydrated. Hello, Doc Spengler 753. This roustabout from the picture above Shelby's bed appears and has some kind of evil intent, although his hands are off the top of the panel, so you can't actually see what he might do. Although I do like the fact that he's got a tattoo that says Daddy's Girl and a couple of mermaids. A rare appearance of the nipple there in a Scary Go Round comic. Shelley manifests from nowhere, clonks the lad on the head. Why is she in Shelby Winter's bedroom? This is again a question we will get into. Anyway, she lamps this lad. He's out of it. A good sound effect, boing. Sound, of course, of a Big Ben's chime. Ben, we remember, is the man who hits the bell with a hammer, not the building itself. Big Ben is the guy who makes the bell ring. Shelley has hit him over the head with a fire extinguisher, which I think could actually kill you. It's certainly the thing on television that would kill a person in the course of a violent altercation in HBO drama. And then there's a little joke at the end. I don't have any depth perception. What on earth? I thought you were dangerous. Oh, she thinks Shelby was dangerous. I thought you were dangerous. Where's your pink pearl-handled pistol for emergencies? I don't have any... Oh, I see, she can't shoot because she has no depth perception. I've had to think about this. Some of these comics are a little bit cryptic now when I look at them. You're still a person, Shelby. Classic Winter's reassurance. I like it when she becomes a bit... She becomes very gentle. She'll go very soft very suddenly. She really, she just wants people to be having a good time, in many ways reflecting her creator, who just wants people to be having a good time. So, it's streaming time. Let's remove that. You know it's streaming time now. Just going to keep streaming all night long, all day strong. Gone. So the first job is to think about how I'm going to redraw this. I don't like to do a like-for-like redraw. With 14 years gone, 13 years gone, I've learned a few tricks, so I'll try and give it a bit more, shall we say. Sell the panels a bit harder, because although I look at this, it's got some quite charming drawings in, some nice little faces, and some nice colours actually, which is unusual for the era. There's always a better sell on a panel now than there was then, so I'll have a go at redrawing them and try and give some of the compositional lessons that I've learned about getting around a page. Other notes from this era was, this is one of the few pages I drew huge. I drew it A3, so 42 centimetres high. What's that in inches? 18 inches high, which is even bigger, I think, than a traditional US comics page is drawn when somebody draws it on the artboard that you get from a comics company with the blue line on it that they send you from, Kitchen Sink or Tundra, one of the big two comics companies. So yeah, I drew it huge to attempt to refine my line by then, obviously shrinking it down. And it did give me the opportunity to get a really thin line, a really thin fixed line, but at the same time it was quite hard to draw on these tall pieces of paper, and characters start to get long and thin, and you'll see in Shelby, she's meant to have tall hair like that. Her hairstyle was always meant to be a real buff. She's got a very tall, she's like a Tefal head, and Shelley's head is tall as well, so we'll try and get these characters a bit more on model. Model, as if there's a model. Oh dear. Anyway, just one thing that I like, just want to show you, I'm very pleased with. these little toes poking out here. It's a fun feature. I'm not sure I'll be able to keep that, but I'll do my best. Get some toes poking out. I do try to think whether a female character would have painted her toenails or not, but I've not coloured those toenails in. Fingernails as well, but if you look, she hasn't got any fingernails, but I still took the time to give her toenails. Who knew? Liam, hello. Is this John Draws in the Afternoon? No. No, it's Steve Wright in the Afternoon. On Radio 2. You've got mixed up. Okay, so let's begin. Begin with the break-in. And the break-in happens while Shelby is in her hotel room, on her laptop, having a type. But we need to give a bit more of an indication, because the guy's actually in her room. And he's pictured in the mirror, but it doesn't really show you anything. You have to go back and check. So I think that's quite a poor narrative technique. So we'll try again. I'll do some panels first. I'm using Clip Studio. One nice thing is the panels are very easy to do, and you don't have to worry about drawing in front of them or going over the line, because it makes a mask for you on the frame there. So let's have a look. Tell you what, if there's some action, I don't mind making the panels not square. I like a traditionally square grid usually. I don't like to mess about with panels too much, because I resent the old Image comics where people just went panel crazy. But my feeling is that if there's some action, it's alright to make your panels a bit crazy. And I've started doing that more and more recently, trying to actually kind of really mess with panels, because there are some good tools in Clip Studio to do that. So I'll go a bit more maverick than usual. I've got some action here, but I'll do a bleed to, you know, really pump up the action. Page bleed. I don't know if this is a left or right hand page. Obviously I have no way of knowing, so we'll just have to pick. And I'm going to say that the best side to bleed, probably, so we can get Shelby and her bed in, is the right hand side. So we'll pretend it's the right hand page. Mark Ellaby. Hi Mark. Can we chat about speakers or roles? No. I don't want to talk about speakers. Well, you can talk amongst yourselves about speakers, but frankly I won't be joining in. I did fix a speaker the other day now, so maybe I will talk about speaker. I'd had a set of old modern short speakers that I bought when I was in my early 20s, and I'm 44 now, and one of them had never really worked, and because I was sort of lazy, I never sent it back. I didn't want to have to send it back, but when I went and retrieved them the other day from where they'd been stashed, I thought, I'm going to have a look inside this speaker after 20 years, and I opened it up. I found the bit that was loose. A whole chunk of it had fallen away. I soldered it back on, and it works as if it was new. So there's a lesson for you. If you can't be bothered to send something back, wait 20 years and then solder it with your soldering iron. Or as the Americans call it, solder. Soldering iron. Don't ask me. I don't know. Okay. This is meant to be a drawing stream, not a speaker repair stream. So yeah, I'm going to go for a bleed at the top. I only started using bleeds because Max did them on Giant Days, and Max would make their box small. I'll just indicate this. Would have quite a small central live area, but would then blow the bleeds out really wide, and it looks really good when Max does it. When I do it, it looks like somebody who's seen somebody else doing it, but that's all right. That's all any of us can do, really. Try and build upon sun on the shoulder of giants, so to speak, to quote the Oasis album cover. Not shoulders, shoulder of giants. Okay, right. Well, I haven't got any 3D models for this one, so I'm going to have to do some actual perspective, which is, you know, it's big for me. And there's nothing more risky than perspective on a bed, because you can sometimes draw it a bit, you know, too short. You can short sheet yourself. Okay, so this guy's breaking in, and I've kept the layout basically I've got to make this. Oh dear! How on earth am I going to do this? I could split the panel. I could move the guy in the doorway. You've got a lot of setup. This first panel has to do a lot of setting up. There's a lot of hard work going on here. I'm gonna risk it. I'm gonna split the panel. Otherwise, I don't think I can do it. Oops. Keep those gutters lined, John. Okay. Give it a bit more. Yeah. I've really got to send myself back in time to try and get the feeling of some of these panels. Work out, okay, we've got this crack. Well, the sound effect's important, so you should really put it on the page first of all. Just rough it in there. I'm well out of my safe area here. I've almost hit the bleed with the sound effect. How's he broken in the first place? I don't know. It's just crack. The crack does all the work. I've got to, now these days, I've got to justify everything in my head. How's he broken in? Is it a foot? The number of panels I draw is just a door. In the first panel of the page is a door. It's disgraceful, really. Everything starts with a door. How about Shelby in the bed, and then she hears the crack. So what's going on? I like this hotel room with the little brick wall. There's some research gone on there. I've not thought that up myself. So we'll think about it like that. Her bed's sort of. What are these bricks doing? I have no idea. Okay. Is she leaning on some pillows? Yes, she is. Okay. Get a lot of pillows in hotels, don't you? I wonder when the pillow war started in hotels. When they decided we're just going to keep pumping up the number of pillows. It started with one. One pillow was considered enough for anybody. Then it was like two. Give you some options. Then, how do you draw Shelby? Actually, oh, she has quite a long and pointy nose. I think the crack isn't actually in her room at this point. It's sort of outside. Maybe they're in a. I can't even remember what they're in. I think they're in like a lodge, a kind of. What's the word? Chalet? I've got to think about where her actual body is. She's on her laptop. She'll be sort of legs out in front. Put the laptop on another leg, so I'm bound to put it in the wrong place first. I like this laptop she's got. It's pre-Zambian. This it's a Dell. No, or who has the Circle? Who used to have the Circle? Could be an HP. I think Shelby's too cool to have an HP. She's like a cool character. She has the best of everything. Tell you what, I'm not going to have her under the covers because it's. But then she can't. She's hiding under the covers here. It's just me saving time, isn't it? I won't bother with that. I'll put her over the covers. I've had legs kind of yoga pose. So you get yourself into all sorts of trouble with a pose like this. I told you this would be in the wrong place. So then, yeah, that's it. Shelby in the comic she worked for a kind of, I think she worked for the New Yorker? No, it wasn't. Was it the New Yorker? No, she worked for Condé Nast Traveller, which is a real high-end mag for the rich and wealthy. She's wearing some sort of night attire. Okay, that looks about right. Let's get rid of some of this blue. I like to clear out as much of my construction as I can before inking. Dominic Montefiore says, if she's yoga posing on top of the covers, can she still cower beneath them and panel through? I don't think she can, but also I think the cowering under the covers is a move I wouldn't do now, because sticking somebody under a sheet, there's a panel in the news story where Charlotte goes under a sheet, and it just creates problems, because you have to draw the character anyway to make sure that the sheet's in the right place, and then, even though I know the character's right, when I look at the sheet, do you know what, I think Shelby, she's probably, what else has she got? She's got a ukulele, she's got a bottle of water. I'm going to give her the bottle of water, because that means her hand is visible. Oh yeah. Get that towering crest of hair. Great. Yeah, because she's a real glamour puss. Okay. But I'll give her a Zambian. That's the best sort of computer. Okay. Right, great. Yeah, I mean, the sheet, it's again, it covers a multitude of sins, but I can't live with myself putting somebody in a bed unless they absolutely have to be. Okay. Well, you got your toes already. Right, great. And I say great, I mean, you be the judge. So I've got to put my sound effect on it. I'll put it around her head to indicate that she's very, very aware of it. And then you can have a bit more fun with covers, and it's sort of night, so I can use a bit of shadow as well. Again, something that did not an issue that used to come up back in the day, shadows and thinking about them, but I do now. Right, now I've split this, I can now have a kind of line of action of the guy in the doorway. Alright. This is going to take a bit of thinking about, because it's not easy perspective. Look, I'm not 100% sure how this would work. It's hard to, the depth of field is really deep to be able to have somebody in a doorway and also show a response. You're kind of talking about this kind of thing. Somebody here, oh my lord, and then some eyeline probably up there, and then somebody here, well scary, in the doorway, or even depth of field could be even deeper than that. You could be talking about someone in the doorway like this. That is not an easy perspective to achieve and get correct. idea how to do that. Well, I mean, I know how to do it, but I'd do it by cheating. I'd use the computer to help me. But even then, by the time you're down to that angle, you've got so little help from the image itself. Well, let's give it a go. Let's give it a go. What's to lose? You know, Javier Pulido wouldn't be scared of this layout. He'd be laughing. You know, it was the end of the bed. What's gonna do this for me? Eye line, horizon line. You know, I try things like this from time to time and always wish I hadn't. There's got to be a way to do it. There's got to be a way to do it that isn't that difficult. But I usually find if you start drawing with the character, you'll get a character shape that you like, and you're like, that's the one, and then you try and build a background around it. It ain't gonna work. Because for one, right, there's a bed behind us, so she'd have to be leaning forward just to have got off the bed, got away from the wall. You need some, I think, just got to make this the guy. This has got to be the guy. I can't get Shelby into this. So, what's our line? Where's my money? You thieving sea hag. I can't think of anyone who's less like a sea hag than Shelby. Anyway, let's stick this here, my lettering balloons. Stop going outside the safety zone, John. You're writing checks your body can't cash. Right. Then, so you can just concentrate on what the result of the crack. Maybe this guy's even holding the door. You know, he's broken in like from a layer below. So you've got a bit of mystery. Alright. You know, there's kind of a mesh here, and this guy's just knocked a door off an external portion. So he can still at this point be mysterious, and we'll reveal him in the next panel. Don't ask me what the whole issue of the money was. I don't know what Shelby had supposedly taken. I don't think she was meant to be an evil character. She was just sort of naughty. Oh, some more comments. Hang on. Jonathan Hall. Good morning from California. Good morning to California. Though Shelby Winter's state of existence may be an uncollapsed waveform, I was delighted to run across a sidewalk star for Shelley Winter's gifted performer visiting St. Louis this weekend. Well, hopefully that's Shelley Winters from the Poseidon Adventure, who gives our Shelley Winters her name. Right. So, I thought this guy was in shadow in the original, but he's got squid, I think it's squid ink, I think Des, in a rare ink splurge gets him. But again, I can't remember. I should really have looked at the original story before attempting this, but I was very gangbusters about getting started. So the way I would do this now, I would try and get some shadow on there, really, if possible, for a bit of drama. So this is like sort of an insect voile type thing. So give him a bit of shape on there, and then got my autocorrect turned on. Previous viewers of this stream will know that I always have autocorrect turned on to 100% when I'm penciling, so that I can do a straight line with but a tap of a key on the keyboard without having to think about picking up the line tool. This is a great way. One of my favourite things on Clip Studio is being able to do that. But there are a lot of times where I'll draw quite a complex shape, be pleased with it, and then the second I take the pen off the screen, it pings back into a straight line. I'm like, whoops. Anyway, I'm going to ignore the fact that he's been inked quite as violently as he has in the original. And I'll just make greater play of the shadow. That's just an indication of where I might put it. I've been working a lot on my solid blacks and shadow. See, I just did it there. Forgot to turn off autocorrect. I've been working a lot on my solid blacks and shadow on the current story, Author Unknown, which I've just almost finished drawing. I'm just up down to the last 3 pages. And I've mastered a few techniques. Things that I thought I'd never be able to do. I've finally kind of cracked in the last 2 or 3 months. Anyway, so I might be able to show you on here. Whoops. There we go. So there's your kind of roustabout guy. And I'll keep that brick motif going. Just for a bit of visual interest. Top tip, you want to make bricks look more interesting, maybe draw a fat line under the occasional one, and it looks like the bricks haven't been set quite straight, which is a realistic feature of bricklaying. All of a sudden you'll probably be hired by Disney Animation because you're that, perceptive. People will be like, wow, the illusion of life there, the illusion of bricks more like, you know what I'm saying? Okay, whoops. Next panel, panel 3. Well, having revealed the unpleasant interloper, we now have a confrontation to draw. But having established his physicality, I can now be a bit bolder with this drawing. I don't like to do a panel these days of a woman just being physically threatened. I think it's distasteful to me. So it might be a way to sort of ease this, make her a little bit less submissive here. I think it's not a form of art we need any more of, in comics. Woman as victim. So let me see if I can make it a bit more interesting. Dominic Montefiore says, is there a reason you decided to name Shelley after the Poseidon Adventure character? Well, I named her in about 1996, and it's probably I'd watched the Poseidon Adventure once, internalised the name Shelley Winters, then when I named the character Shelley, I had to think of a surname for her, and I just put Winters on the end of it. Very easy to do in the pre-IMDb world. Counterfoible says, watching you cut and delete entire panels is making me gasp. Do you mean cut from the original, or just while I'm working, just throw stuff out? You've got to be willing to throw things out. you've got to be willing. You can't. You've got to be. I'm making a series of decisions. I'm making a decision on the kind of the most primordial version of the panel. Then once I know that it's something I can work with, then I can stick with it. But there's a lot of times I pencil now the day before I ink. Like the last job I do of each day is to pencil, and oftentimes I'll look at a panel the next day and I'll realise I've got to cut it because something in it doesn't work. And you could sit and argue with that panel for hours trying to finesse it into life, or you just cut it and go again. And so I'm much more comfortable now with just throwing stuff out because I'm a fast enough inker and penciler that there's more time lost by trying to fix something than there is by just starting again. And you can always just cut it and put it on a layer and turn that layer off. You don't have to throw it away forever, although I have thrown everything away on this page. So let's see. Let's make Shelby a bit more pugilistic here. As I say, she's an international toughie. She's not going to be a hunt. I mean, she's intimidated by the size of this guy, but she's probably still attempt to whack him with something. So, but it's maybe just try and whack him with something that isn't actually very strong. Have a look. He can just loom, because I've revealed him, he can loom in the edge of the panel. He doesn't actually have to be there present. Yeah, so I don't like creating these situations in comics anymore where if it was the real world, something really nasty could be happening. I just don't think there's any need to kind of increase the pile of nastiness. I always like there to be a sort of sense of a get out. You know, I'm not doing comics to be nasty. I'm meant to make, you know, yeah, a bit of daring do. We've got a Saturday morning daring do, but there's never the sense that I don't want the sense that anybody could actually really be hurt anymore. So what could Shelby do with her laptop that would turn it into some sort of vicious weapon? It's got quite a sharp corner. But I mean, I've never hurt myself physically on a laptop. Yeah, she really hasn't got a great selection of weapons in this comic. Okay, give it a go, give it a go. Let's see what she's doing. I just want you to think she's not scared. He's like trying a thing. You're gonna lose a nut. God, you really can't. How on earth? How are you gonna hold a Dell laptop for maximum sort of weapon effect? Let's get the rest of her right, and then we'll think about the arms and what she's doing. Those. It's got shorts on, I think. What could you do with a laptop? Any suggestions, by the way, put them in the chat. I don't know how you could use a laptop as a weapon. Nothing. Nobody's got anything for me. Come on. It's a world of dread and fear. It's a world of endless violence. Surely there's something you can do with a laptop that would make it into a letter V. It's quite a frightening letter, but you've really got to point the V of the thing as a kind of wedge. I need another layer, because I'm going to get this wrong first time. Oh, it's a dark day when I have to go to the green layer. Yeah, frisbee toss is it. You'd have to use it as a projectile, and that probably would work. In fact, I think I can see how that would work. You'd have, and it's going to call for my favourite sound effect, blong. But there's a bwong there, so it can't be a blong. He's going to have to get it, kind of. God, this is hard. I'll take our eyes off because I like the character to be looking directly where their target is. The eyes are the most important. Can you actually do this? Yeah, hang on. Yeah, you can. I think you have to do it so she's kind of like slapping him sideways. It's not an easy gesture to draw. Kind of like that. So the laptop is, yeah, it's like hitting someone with a book. Not that I ever have hit somebody with a book, but I've watched enough violent nonsense on television to, pretty much be able to picture any. So I think that's it. So hand would have to go under here. The line of action is here. Then this guy's kind of got clocked around the face. Oh God! I didn't think this was going to end up. I mean, doubtless we'll be back here in 13 years with me trying to work out how I can draw this better. Because you basically... This is a test, by the way. This isn't a finished drawing. Is that right? Maybe that's right. The eyes are really important. So you don't lose too much if you're going to have to put it back again. I think this is right. Okay. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I've solved the problem there. I don't know if I'd let myself get away with that if I was going to finish the page. Oh dear. Is he just too big? I make him a bit smaller. Is it a little more convincing? I solved it a bit better. Now he looks like he's too small. He's quite a bit bigger than her. We'll lose him. Well, I have one other option, which is to give myself a bit more space in this panel. Because I'm not sure I'm going to get there otherwise. So this is going to make problems for the Shelley whacking him on the head. In fact, I've completely undermined the original script here, because Shelley says, "I thought you were dangerous," and in this panel, Shelby is quite clearly dangerous. So what I would do normally at this point would be to rewrite the original. Again, you can't be afraid to murder your darlings. If something works better than something else and seems real, then just admit you were wrong, go back in, change it. Right. So the sound effect here will be clock. So we'll see what we can do. Fortunately, I've got the bleed here, which will help me, but I don't actually think. What's the line of action? There's a bit of gestural drawing. I'm just trying to give it a sense of the flow of action. That's it. That's it. So I'll get some teeth flying. Fortunately, he's wearing this headscarf, which solves any hair-related problems. Clean this line up a bit. There you go. I think that's right. I think that's about right. I'll ink this panel at the end. I'm not going to ink all of them because it's slightly pointless. Unless I'm having a really, really good time. It just wears my hand out, and I've already done a page today. Slightly smaller. Anyway, it's not an absolutely perfect contact here, but let's face it, when most people sock each other in films, they aren't actually punching each other in the mush, are they? I mean, I've seen The Irishman. I've never seen less convincing punches. Alright, so there you go. There's your... Now I can use the wall to, again, make it a bit more dynamic just by showing that it's quite a sharp angle. Those bricks. Now, Shelby's a good character. I mean, the comic was just clogged with these red-headed characters. It was mostly a failure of design inspiration at times. I would have to create a character very quickly, and I didn't sit and sketchbook them out back then, so you'd end up with very generic characters. But she was actually a good one in terms of who her character actually was. I just should really have tried to draw her a bit differently, you know, actually a bit of variation. You live and learn. But I used a lot of Shelby's character for Mrs. Lord in Bad Machinery, because obviously there was no reason that Shelby would have gone and taught at the school, and so I felt like I got my money's worth out of the character, even though I didn't use her by name in any more than this. So she does appear, I think, in one bobbin strip right at the end. I think she appears at Shelley's baby shower. Okay. Good, that looks good. Oh, have I left space for my sound effect? Not really. But again, we can fudge that. Right, good. There you go, a bit more agency. But now I don't think Shelley can hit her in the next panel. I don't think it hit this guy in the next panel. I don't think Shelley would just stand over a fallen body and start whacking it with a fire extinguisher. So I think she'll just come in with a fire extinguisher. But now I'm halfway through, so I'm going to look at some questions. Let's look at the chat. Whoa, words have appeared. AW Summoner says, or Summoner, could be or Summoner, couldn't you reverse the viewing position so focus across the two panels, then have both thwacks facing inwards? I think I would be rotating the camera at that, and I'm keen not to do that, as it says you shouldn't really do it in the 5 C's of cinematography. Thank you, David Dolliver. I'm sure you've gone now. Apologies for not seeing you there. Thank you for popping by. Does anybody have any questions before I return to drawing? I'm going to have a brief drink of water. That's the taste I remember. No questions? Right, I'll keep going. I'm making good progress. Right, it's time for another door. It seems to me that Shelley and Shelby... Oh, what temperature is the water? It's room temperature. I don't like icy cold water. Except when I'm very, very hot. Arguably too hot. Then, fine, put some ice in it. But otherwise, you know, in April, tepid. Tepid. I note here with interest that Shelley is wearing full pyjamas on a tropical island. I'm not going to repeat that mistake. It seems like, I mean, she's very demure, but that's going to be uncomfortable. That's winter garb. So I'll try to come up with a better outfit for her. So to reduce her temperature just down to tepid, like the tap water. I haven't got winter's garb. Very good. Yes, winter's garb. Just looking at the all these drawings, these panels. The characters are about the same size. I do try and get a close up in there for a bit of variation. So one of these last panels does have to feature a close-up, just to stop things being visually monotonous. But we'll think about that in a second. I think it's going to be this one. But yeah, at this point I would have to rewrite because I've changed it. So we've now entered an entirely new world of narrative, and it'll be up to me to sell you on this new material. She can still be holding the fire extinguisher. What's the fire extinguisher look like? Do I remember? I'm going to have to look at a picture. The hose arrangement confuses me. Fire extinguisher. Alright, okay. Good. Well, let's just stick one on the page and have a look. Come on, this is a water fire extinguisher. I mean, it could arguably be a foam fire extinguisher that Shelley's holding, which is more effective. Depends on the sort of fire, doesn't it? Electrical fire. I like the idea actually that Shelley was running with a fire extinguisher just because there was a disturbance and she thinks there might be a reason to put out a fire. That's just as likely as anything else. Look at this, it's like a pterodactyl's beak on top. That's very exciting. Actually, I might go the other way. No, I think she'd be holding the fire extinguisher as if to put out a fire. I think there's more comedy there. So she's got it under her arm. Yeah, how else do you hold a fire extinguisher? It has to be under your arm, doesn't it? Because they're quite heavy. Where does the hose bit come out? Alright, okay. It's got a black bit. Yeah. Oh god. It's very confusing. How does it even work, a fire extinguisher? I've never had to shoot one. I don't know how you actually release the grease. And look how pixelated this is. Those instructions aren't going to help me. I have no idea. If you get something like this wrong, if you just draw it and make it up, somebody will write to you. I once drew a very weak-looking gun, and somebody wrote to me very officiously saying that they'd never seen a gun that looked so feeble. And I'm no expert on firearms, but I tell you what, I've never drawn so puny a gun since. I wouldn't dare. Oh, I see. This bit must be like a squeezer, and you squeeze it to release the juice. So, yeah, there's no other way of doing it. That top bit must pop out. Must do. There's no other way of achieving the fire extinguishing effect with one-handed if you're not, you know, an octopus. So but then she's not really moving with enough speed here, so I think she'd probably be going at more of a lick, to be honest with you, than that. I might have to throw this old drawing away. It wasn't a bad one. But I think it's quite hard at this angle to indicate that somebody's running. You need more leg. So I'm just conscious that some of these characters are virtually the same size as each other. And you can only get so much foot in at this angle. Please do write in to the Scary Go Round organisation. You hold in one hand by the top and the hose with the other. The hose is attached at the top of the can. Now the bottom bit pops out, the squeezer stays on the canister. Oh my god. I'm learning so much. I closed the chat window because I was looking at... Right, okay, this changes everything. This changes everything. This makes things a lot easier. Because now an action pose is immediately suggested. if I was actually drawing with the right colour. Yes, yes. Okay. God, I hope this is right. Again, it's slightly penile. It always worries me, but I won't worry about it too much. You know, I'll be dead one day, and they'll say, "Yeah, remember the time John drew the hose on a fire extinguisher, and it looked a bit like a penis." Wow. Dangers of the game, I'm afraid. Dangers of the game. Oh, there's some more comments. You can tell you've been working at home too long when you haven't had the health and safety course on how to use one of those. Yeah, I've never been taught. Even in the 5 years when I worked in an office, which were now 18 years ago, I was never taught how to use a fire extinguisher, and so a lot of people could have died on my fire watch, so to speak. But fortunately, nobody did. I merely endured the drills. Oh God, I've got to think about Shelley's outfit. She's in the nip at the moment. Dear. Ask yourself a question here, haven't you? Suitable night attire. Yes, it's, comics' least well-kept secret that all characters, when you were originally drawing them, trying to work out, they are in the nip. I mean, one of the great tricks of the post-1970s comics artists is they never really bother to attempt to show you that the characters aren't in the nip, which is why they just, there's no sense on a female character. Often, she's just kind of wearing an outfit that is her in the nude with a drawing over the top of her. Well, it'll do, they said. It'll do. We'll build an industry on that. Good work. Good work. Okay. This is quite good. I'm quite enjoying this. I haven't really thought about the width of this door very carefully though. Work your neck curtain out. No, with oil. Stop trying to save it. Oh, I've just realized I automatically try and save things all the time. Because I've worked digitally for so many years, I'm constantly hitting save, but I haven't actually saved this in the first place. Let's save it, so otherwise we're going to keep getting this popping up. What should we call that? Shelby. Underscore redraw, underscore revs1, underscore final, underscore for print, underscore cmyk. That's a really legitimate good file name there. It's not even cmyk, I told a lot of lies, but it's just for chucks. Okay, so now I like the idea that more time is going to have had to have passed as a harder sell for this next panel. So I think Shelby will be trussing up the itinerant pirate. Because I haven't given myself a lot of space for this. I might have to go for a bottom bleed as well. Aside, if you've got a bottom bleed, please go to a proctologist. Don't suffer in silence. These things can be completely explainable, but you should never take risks with your health. Okay, I'm going to do a top down, the idiots panel. layout that poses more questions than it answers. Again, normally under normal circumstances, I would have prepared this whole room in SketchUp with just a sort of basic block for a bed and all furniture, so I wouldn't really have to think about things like this, but this was an impromptu stream, and I'm doing it on the fly, so let's just first of all think about where the speech balloons are going to go. Thought you were dangerous. Well, I knew you were dangerous. I thought you would have a pearl-handled pistol for emergencies. That is how you would rewrite that. You just spin it around, change as little as possible. Okay, so this guy's getting trussed up. I'm not sure being hit on the head with a laptop would actually knock you out, but let's imagine this is quite a fragile pirate. Fragile Pirate. It's a good name for a band. Okay, so he's in place. And he's not gone into the bleed, which is half the battle. Then Shelby would be trussing him up. You see, if I'd thought about doing all these things at the time, Shelby, as a sort of more an action-orientated character who's perfectly capable of trussing up a pirate, would have opened up a lot of opportunities. But I couldn't have drawn any of these things at the time. I wouldn't have thought to, so. It was never going to happen. Characters just had to be good with their talking, use their words, because there was no way I was going to be able to draw action in 2007. Actually, Shelby's a little bit big there. Might just make him a bit bigger. So I keep him within the bounds of the page. What would she be tying him up with that you'd have in a hotel room? I mean, it depends on your predilections, of course, but even I, who likes to think he goes away prepared on holiday, don't tend to go away with sort of baling twine. You know, travel iron, sewing kit, restraints. Right. Oh, Shelley delivers the dialogue in this. So where am I going to put her? Bit of juggling here. Not a huge amount of space. Let's move my speech balloons down a bit. Probably get away with that. She can be up here. Remove my fire extinguisher. If you have any questions, by the way, put them in the chat. I will answer anything I can, related or not related to redrawing work that you did 13 years ago. So it's a rare opportunity to ask me, for example, if you had to fix a tap in a hotel room on holiday, could you do that? What would you take with you to make sure you could fix it so you didn't have to call room service or the front desk? And that's not really a very good question to ask, but it's just an example of the sort of thing you could ask me. I'd try and answer. What's the most frightening thing you've ever seen under a hotel room bed? And did it make you think that you should, not skimp on your nightly rate in future? What's the most frightening stain you've ever seen in a hotel room? Silverfish. Can they come home with you in your bags? Have you ever seen a bed bug? And if you have, did you know what to do? Answer, of course, call the police. Don't try and handle it yourself. Apparently no questions. I think I've just answered everything. And now I'm putting Shelley's glasses on when she's not wearing glasses in the original. That's because I don't think those two characters are actually drawn that differently. Give them a bit of visual differentiation. It all helps. It all helps. You can only draw one face. One time in 3, put a moustache on it. Right, let's think about the background now. Nice thing about drawing a grid, if you've got to draw a bed then, it's pretty easy. And the fire extinguisher, obviously. Given that this is a floor in a hot country, it will probably be tiled. It's up to you as the artist whether you want to draw a pattern on the tiles or not. Remember that if you're going to draw a pattern on the tiles in one panel, you're going to have to draw it every time you draw that floor, which might be charming in 1 or 2 panels, but probably in 20. It's something you'll come to regret. Are cats with pink inner mouths cooler than those with black inner mouths? Cooler in terms of physical temperature, or cool in terms of, like coolest? In terms of physical temperature, I would imagine a black mouth would be warmer. Absorbs more heat, doesn't it? Pink mouth, cooler. But again, just a guess. I'm no cat expert. I'm no felinologist. Let's differentiate this with a bit of black. Indicate a bit of shade. What else would be in Shelby's hotel room on the floor? Actually, nothing really necessary. I could stick the laptop there, again, to indicate a kind of line of action between panels. And that's the only question. Are cats with pink inner mouths cooler than those with black inner mouths? Maybe the black inner mouth would allow you to radiate more heat. So actually, maybe black inner mouth would be cooler. But it's only a very small surface area, isn't it? The mouth. There's got to be issues of what colour the actual cat is. The black cat is absorbing more heat from the sun. Right. Well, how did I get trapped in this world of cat temperature? I know nothing about cats. I tried watching that film about them with the songs. 45 minutes, I had a migraine. I had to go and lie in a darkened room for a day. Never again. Right, last panel. well, having completely changed what was in panel 3 and completely changed what was in panel 4, I now don't really know what will be in panel 5, as was. Anything could be. Oh dear. But again, I haven't really done a close-up. So why don't I sell the close-up in the last panel, and then my work here is done. And all you can do on the last panel, I guess, is a kind of a wrap-up, you know. Because my comics tend to be divided, not always now, but certainly when they're on the web, there's a general break for each page, a beat. Even if the scene continues, I still like to have a beat at the end of the page. So just sell that beat with a bit of job done kind of thing. Shelby's quite wicked. She's actually smiling. She'd be pleased with herself because that's a really good takedown. Dust clouds for the classic. What's that? Well done. Yeah, so one subtext of this story, which I don't think anybody ever really got from it, was that Shelley is infatuated with Shelby, and this is the reason I wasn't sure if Shelley wasn't simply a manifestation of some sort of the most extreme part of Shelley. She's absolutely besotted with her. She'd follow her anywhere. She's like the cool girl in school, Shelby, and Shelley's like, oh my god, I just want to be exactly like this. This is me fully actualized. Sort of very strange crush. But there was another Shelley and Shelby story, which I think I wrote about in the back of one of the old Scary Garan books, where they were going to go on the election trail. I was going to do a full election story that was going to run while the US election of 2008, the Obama John McCain election, was on. I was going to do a whole story. It wouldn't have been like Hunter S. Thompson, because I find him a bit tiresome these days. He's someone you kind of like when you're in your 20s and you realise that's no way to live a life. But I don't know why I didn't do it. These stories come fairly close towards the end of Scary Garan. I was starting to lose enthusiasm. Nothing really felt quite like it worked. It was a bit of a restless time. And I would second guess myself a lot. And I didn't end up doing it, which is a shame, because I think it would have been good. But I thought Shelby was a bit of a... She and Shelley were just too... It was like they started to read like a fetish comic about redheads, and I did not want to get into that kind of territory at all. So... I did not make it work that way. Anyway, that surely wasn't good enough. I thought, nah, let's leave this. Also, I said I couldn't work out the reality of the character. But Scary Go things weren't very well nailed down. And however I felt was whatever would happen. And I just follow whatever direction my nose was pointing at the time. Oh yeah, the sentient hair, thanks Rob. Yeah, she did. Hair with eyes in it. Yeah, good times. She had sentient hair. Yeah, I mean, I don't ever want to go back and do any more Scary Go Round stories. You could argue that's what I'm doing now, but I don't want to go back and sort of I can't really investigate the thoughts behind those stories, because they really were. It was a case of I have to think of something. Here's what I've got this week. Okay, that's better. The issue is she's in the bleed. That's a nice drawing. You can see that I like manga in some of my drawings now, which obviously isn't evident then. But sometimes I'll look at a picture and go, oh yeah, I can see there's a bit of, looks like something from My Hero Academia, a sort of cuddliness to a face. Better. Okay. And then it says, to me, Shelley is a late bloomer with respect to her confidence in her abilities, and Shelby's presence manages to cause Shelley to relapse to older behaviour patterns. Yes, I think that's true. She feeds into her worst instincts. That's a nice way of looking at it. Okay, so just thinking, again, I wouldn't normally put the background on afterwards, but for a close-up, background's perhaps less important. I think in this case it would probably just be window. I mean, I would normally look at what the window would be like in a place like this. I think maybe you'd have shutters, wouldn't you? In an area like Christmas Island. Just keep that powerful heat outside all day. So we'd have the sea. Bigger pen. I mean, people's reads on my characters, because readers, especially with these older stories, will have read them several times. People who really like Scary Go, whereas although I will occasionally go back and have a look, primarily for exercises like this, I generally don't examine the work. So I've not really thought about it often. And this strip, for example, I may not have looked at in 10 years. And so it's all new to me. There's a lot of water under the bridge. Something like that. There you go. So let's put these side by side. There's almost nothing left of the original, I would say. I've not even retained the theme of it. Like the dynamic between the characters has changed. Every angle has changed. But I think I've said the same thing. I just said it more clearly. I don't really like Shelley hitting people. I don't think it's in her nature. I think she'd find it very hard to clock someone over the head now. I don't really think of the character quite the same way as I did, where she was, she was sort of a Stanley knife of a character, Swiss Army knife rather, of a character in the past, whereas now I think she's more nailed down as somebody who's gentle and inventive and uses her mind rather than, I don't think she would clock someone. She's so little anyway, I don't think she'd put a lot of force behind it. Right, yeah, I like that. I'm going to go and get another glass of water, then I will ink one panel for completeness' sake, because I know some people like to see me ink something. Big news, that water just out the tap, not as tepid, a lot colder. Okay, again, I'll just read the chat for a minute or two before I ink a panel. I'll ink the one that I struggled with the most, and we'll see how it comes out. Whether it actually works is often the question. So if you've got to say any questions, ask them in the comments. I can answer them best when I'm not drawing. Mark Ellaby says, "This is looking great, bud." Thanks, Mark. Doing my best. It's just a bit harmless fun, isn't it? Stony Tark. I had to spend my final year in college in isolation. It sucked, but Giant Days helped me get through it. Just wanted to hop in and say thanks for that series. Thank you, Stony Tark. That's very, very nice of you. I'm glad you got something out of the comics, especially in what was probably a pretty miserable last year of university by the sounds of things. Okay. I don't think there are any other questions. The issue of cats with pink inner mouths and black inner mouths didn't excite anybody except me, but I did my best with it. I chewed it like, you know, overcooked beef. I gave it my all. Right. How long have I been doing this? How long has this stream been going on? It does tell you somewhere on the screen, but I can't. Oh, an hour and a half. I covered it with me Apple Music window. Right. Well, I'm not going to go over 2 hours. That's too much for anybody. 50%. I like to knock things back from my inking so that I'm able to concentrate on what I'm doing. Let's have a go. Say, process questions as well. If you have any questions about your own art technique, I'll always try and help you. I mean, one person's experience isn't always super applicable, but I'll do my best. 91 minutes, Rob. That's right, 91 minutes, okay. Am I using the right pen here? Thank you, Nono. Thank you for watching. Glad you enjoyed it. What I'll do is I'll probably if I finish anything, I'll probably put it on Instagram just to show what I was working on. So you can find it instagram.com/badmachinery. I'll probably put this panel up if I ink it and colour it in. It might not work, there might be nothing. Nothing worth showing. And of course you will be able to watch it back on the YouTube, provided that I don't say anything so incendiary or inflammatory in the last half an hour that I have to delete it to protect my reputation. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure that. I think she's holding it right to clock someone. Normally what I'd do is I'd actually get an item and I'd kind of wave it around to try and work out the right way to hold your hands. But while I'm on the stream, I can't be marching around the office pretending to be hitting something, because you get a lot of dead air. I mean, the artist Bill Sienkiewicz is renowned for taking photos of himself in the nude for particularly difficult compositions in the mirror. I have to say I've never indulged in this. I don't think that's the life I want to lead as an artist. That's not my art life, you know. It's Bill's, sure. Oh God, how do I do this ear? The top of an ear. Drawing an ear from the top down. Not easy. Oh no. A head view from this angle has a lot of fairly unsolvable problems. I can tell when things aren't working. I start pressing down too hard. I'm like, oh, I can't do this. Tension's getting in the shoulder. Maybe that's the theme tune to this stream. Oh, I can't do this. Tension's getting in the shoulder. But having had perhaps 9 attempts to draw this correctly, I'm afraid whatever this ear ends up looking like is what it's going to end up looking like, because I'm not redrawing this. It's as good as it's getting at this point. And nobody's going to be keeping score. Also, I did this without a thumbnail. I just guessed. So I think I can excuse myself. Any flaws? That little finger. So I like to have a look at stuff with the pencils turned off, just to make sure it's not horrendous. I mean, this is not a beautiful looking drawing, I have to say. Oh, this guy has a tattoo, doesn't he? What's it of again? Oh, it's a horseshoe. Daddy's girl. Oh my goodness. Let's give it a go. Horseshoe. It does make the area more interesting. And let me off the fact that this is slightly a screwy looking elbow. Where'd that elbow go? Probably there. A little bit close to the panel border, but again, sue me at this point, I don't care. That's not even right, is it? Wouldn't go that way. I draw it, yeah, that's it, you go that way. A few little Decemberists, Carson Ellis ribbon. And then I don't think we're actually going to get the mermaids in any more than that. There you go. Classic. Everybody's talking about it. It's gone very quiet in the chat. I can only imagine people are thinking, can't believe I was here for this. Cannot believe it. Okay. This isn't a very good finger. I can imagine my obituary. This wasn't a very good finger, said John, seconds before being electrocuted. His last words, this wasn't a very good finger, could have been applied to his entire life. Got a second? Put some freckles on there. Can't hurt. Most people have got a few freckles, you know. I like to have some relation between the character and the surface they're on, if at all possible, because you don't want them floating in space in the manner of spiritualized. Ladies and gentlemen, we are floating in space. Far too many of my characters in the past could have had that applied to them. Stars. Now, before I start doing the backgrounds, do you want me to ink a second panel? Because I can do two. I can do the fire hose panel as well. But you've got to say yes now. Last chance. No, okay, well, I won't then. Oh, Mark said yes. Thanks, Mark. Great. I'll ink it, mate. I'll do it. I'll do the fire hose panel as well. Thereby, educating myself in how a fire hose works. Get those eyes. Right, I think I spend more time correcting the height of pupils in eyes. If you look at lots of comics, people aren't actually that bothered about where the eyes are actually pointing. They're just pleased we've got a circle in the middle of the white area in the first place. But it seems to me to be absolutely the most important thing about connection between characters is to make sure the eyes are pointing in the right direction. That and making sure mouths are open when at least one of the characters' mouths are open when they're talking. Seem to be like two absolute dead cert ways of creating a realistic universe. You don't have to be an amazing artist. The illusion of life has nothing to do with being able to render an absolutely perfect figure. It's about making something that looks like it's existing in the world, and you can draw the most flawless kind of figures. But if they're not actually communicating with each other, they're just standing there dead, which is something that I see all the time in comics. It's like, well, you're clearly a great artist, but you're not drawing life, you're just drawing a picture. It's as dead as a doornail. Whereas I think it's a very rare strip cartoonist who doesn't have their character's mouth open when they're talking. It seems like the absolute prime lesson. And again, the eye line of characters making sure that they're talking to each other is fundamental. But I'm apparently the person who really cares about this stuff. And that's why I'm thought of as a bloody nuisance. With some good reason. Now, my least favourite thing to do in comics is, or drawing generally, is to draw a hose with two parallel lines that you try and keep the same distance apart throughout a consistent length. There are easier ways of doing it, but by the time I remember that they exist, I've already had a go, or perhaps two, and I refuse to be beaten. Trim these eyes. Oh, Shelley was pressing the fire extinguisher. It should have shot. Oh, hang on, I can do this. She was meant to be running into the room with the fire extinguisher shooting. It's off the bleed for the most part anyway. Well, it's a bit of extra interest, isn't it? A bit of added value. Okay, so that looks all right, I think. So I'll do the backgrounds. Oh, there's some comments. Hang on. Matt Norris also said, yeah. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Rob Brewer says, speaking as I was of Peloton, the last little story in it also features a fire extinguisher uses a CO2 smoke machine. Oh yes, Alpha Betsy. Yeah, I remember. I recall. Yes, Des can sort of read now. I mean, he doesn't read well. He doesn't read for long, but he does his best. He understands the shapes. Did a bit of synthetic phonics with him. Got him up to speed. He's beaten his reading gremlins. Okay. Mark says, look how quick he inks. I don't think I'm that quick. I still find myself sitting there for about an hour and a half in the morning, getting around a page. As you can see, I've put a white layer behind my inks so that I can just get a consistent line behind them without having to clean up afterwards. What I tend to do then is just take a little bit off around any really foreground elements. really just a hairline. Just for a little bit of visual clarity. But I quite like it. Army brick wall. Army brick detailing. Look at the sound effects in a second. And then Shelley coming through the door. The critical thing here is the insect nets. I'll have those blowing back rather than forwards, otherwise they're going to hit the flume of water. It's a bit, I lose confidence just in things sort of wavy. Always a chance it's just going to look like nothing and just argue with the lines you already put on the page. Go. That's not correct. That's nothing like correct. Right. Okay, let's put some solid blacks on this. Oh, what was I saying about bricks earlier? Yeah, you're doing bricks, create a bit of visual interest. You can always put a slightly fatter line under the bottom of a brick, and it just looks like they've been laid sort of organically. That. It's a cheap trick, but one that I think always gives results. Okay, let's have a look. Turn these pencils off and let's put some solid blacks on. I can always give them their own layer so I can tinker with them afterwards. It's actually not that much solid black on this page. Okay, so those are the basic blacks, and then I think, given that this is artificial light, I can be quite harsh with them on the bed. And this bed, the perspective on this bed is a bit wonky, to be honest with you. So anything that helps that, probably for the best. Right, so I generally find if you just stick black on there, blacks will argue with each other on the page. So I knock them back to about 85 so I can see the original lines, and I put a tiny bit of detailing on, and it instantly lends depth. I've got a line on there already, I just continue it. That's quite slick looking. I mean, these are things I don't really know how all of a sudden I realised that these worked. I was just messing about on my iPad, just drawing spooky beasts, I think it was. Spooky Beasts, the John Allison story, and all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, that works perfectly, and I've seen this before. I just did something. I thought, I've seen this. I've seen this in Toth and trad comics, and it very clearly works every time. It's the old ways. I just sort of connect with the old ways. Oh, I've missed a really easy one here. So I just demarcate any areas where black hits black, like this. If it's towards the light source with a fatter line, if it's not, if it's away from the light source with a thin line. And immediately it looks like something. It looks right. So I also spend a lot of time accidentally colouring things in white that are meant to be black, but nothing else there. As I zig and zag between the two. And then put a bit of detailing on. So the fire extinguisher usually has some instructions. Put a little crest on Shelley's soccer shirt. I was thinking it's it. What shirt would it be? Hearts of Oak, one of my favourite international football team names. Who's the sponsor going to be? Amstrad, obviously. Actually, do you know what? Go. Right. Last job, colouring. Let's colour them. Let's get these looking good. I won't use the original colours, I'll come up with some new colours. A sort of night look for it. What would be a good... What does the night look like? What's that film called? Ryan Gosling. He just drives around everywhere. Constantly driving. What's that film called? Drive. I reckon Drive. It's always night, isn't it? So that's going to have some good night colours. Let's find a picture from Drive. We'll use that. Yeah. I found one. Let's plump this on the page. So, a lot of blues and purples here. Not sure. And reds. I can use the reds for their hair. That's going to work. So let's get a real violent kind of, as red as we can get within CMYK. And actually, I might go a little bit lighter than that. And then I can work backwards from it. And then some blues. Blue. And then a blue that's almost black. So maybe like a dark purple. That'll do. And then I'll start with background colours. Find sort of mid-tone to start with, and then I can work forwards and backwards from it. Whoops. So, I've got dark there. It's a bit too bright. I don't say I'm not the world's most meticulous colour. I've said this before. my main aim is to get the comic finished, as I'm working on my own at the moment without assistance. So mostly I'm just trying to get finished, so any colour help I can give myself. I'll look at a palette that works or something like that. Okay, something like that. So you really don't have to like, I haven't thought about her bedside light, but she probably does have one. So just kind of indicate where that might be. And also that'll give you some idea about how you can light the rest of the panel. There we go. About right. That'll do. It's not going to hurt anybody. And this other side of the room, I'll make it a bit richer. There we go. And there's nothing particularly spectacular about this. I haven't thought about it very hard. Then, right. Then pick out some sort of skin tones that don't look too weird. That'll do. And it all looks a bit strange until you finish it off when you bring people sort of like slightly unnatural colours. It looks, you know, slightly off. But then, because I've come up with this harmonious palette, as you put the colours in around it, they'll start to make sense next to each other. And so even if you've coloured someone's face green, which is actually what I'm doing at the moment on a comic, as soon as there's a sort of complementary shade of green that's about the same distance away from that green as where the kind of daylight colour would be, it just works. So if you can see, she's got purple eyes, and it's basically all purple. It makes visual sense. I don't understand why this is, by the way. It's, but it does. It does, and I say Clip Studio does make these things very easy for you. Too close to the bed colour. Better. And there you go. I colour the toenails in this time. Just worried these shorts are getting lost. Then I'll do the highlights and lowlights at the end. No point messing about with that now. This guy. Again, his skin tone is going to look odd until the rest of him's coloured in. Or it might just look odd. Regardless. But that ear, I got there, you know. I got there, ear viewed from above. I didn't do any solid blacks on this guy. Messed up. So I'm using the tool on Clip Studio where you can basically draw a lasso around areas and it'll colour in everything that's white or transparent in there and ignore your black lines. Very useful, obviously, especially in fiddly areas. We got loads of, like for example, a check shirt. You don't have to go around and fill every little square individually. You can use the tool, use the colour lasso just to go around like that, say, and pick everything up at once. There we go. Oh, just a laptop. It's nearly 4 o'clock, it's nearly 2 hours nearly up. I'll just finish Shelley in the other panel and put the highlights on and I'll call it quits. Thanks for sticking around if you stuck around all this time. I do hope that you've learned something, even if it's just that the sound of one man talking to himself in a room isn't healthy for anybody. Actually, one thing I haven't done is the sound effect. I won't bother because it's a bit pointless, but I would traditionally want to indicate the swing if nothing else. So I think that the sound effect sort of sells that there, but I'm not bothering to put it on now. I don't see the point really. Time's ticking on. Okay, on Shelley and water. Shelley's maybe a bit paler than Shelby. Right, well, I'm almost done. So if you have any last questions, stick them in the chat. As regards colouring, inking, living your life right, eating well, anything. I'm looking at this red and I don't think you should apply this red to a comic that you're going to print. It looks a bit vibrant. It's not a print safe colour. It would look washed out if you tried to print it. What I will tend to do is sometimes pick out the odd colour that I use anyway, like a green or something, and just use it regardless as an anchor for a character. Probably not very good practice, but like Shelley's eyes, I've coloured green in almost every comic I've ever done, and I don't like not colouring them green. Then some highlights. Shelley's hair the same colour as Shelby's? It is. I'm just going to tweak it. Otherwise, they are generic. There we go. Again, that looks a bit like a non-safe orange, but just put some low lights on. To Shelley. she's coming out darkness, so make that a little more intense. And skin tones. Again, this palette, approximate colour in Clip Studio, will give you a wide range, and you can tweak it up and down as you like to get for the sort of complementary colours you want. Same for Shelley. Again, I'll go a bit more aggressive because she's running out of darkness. It's too aggressive. Okay. And this isn't perfect, but the last thing I do is I go over the white lines that I drew on the blacks to just fade them into the surrounding colours. So, because it immediately looks a lot better. And you don't have to often pick out the colour, just look for a sort of mid-tone on the page. And you can leave those, they're alright. And yeah, it just neatly fades everything in, and again it sells your solid blacks a bit better. I'll put a sound effect on because it's you. What was it again? Clock. There we go. So, oh, I deleted all these, didn't I? I didn't delete them. I whited them all out. And turned off the pencils. There we go. So, here's what we did. Here's what we had. If you weren't there at the start, I rethought all of it and tried to sell the panels a bit harder and some of the images, and also I wasn't so keen on Shelby cowering, so I made her a bit more proactive, which then meant Shelley didn't have to be proactive, so I brought back in line with her character rather than her whacking someone over the head, which I didn't think was very Shelley-like. And that's today's drawing stream. Thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll do another one, I don't know, eventually, in the fullness of time. Thanks very much.